Just a minute, sir. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Welcome everybody for the afternoon session. So, after a small break of afternoon session, we are here with another session from Dr. Subhash C. Yargal, Professor and Dean,
Thank
Institute
you.
of Technology, Karnataka. The topic is value-added materials for sustainable construction.
This
So,
here.
on this note, I would like to request Dr. S. Kumar to brief the profile of the speaker.
A very good afternoon to one and all.
Thank you.
I am Dr. Kumar, Associate Professor, Department of Civil Engineering,
Any
Jyotish
Rakesh,
Technology.
any problem? I will call. Okay.
It's my immense pleasure to introduce present session speaker, Professor Dr. Subhash Yargal from NITK Surathkal. Professor Subhash Yargal obtained his bachelor degree in civil engineering from National Institute of Technology, Karnataka, Surathkal in the year 1987. He obtained his postgraduate and doctoral degree from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. Dr. Yargal joined NITK Surathkal in the year 1996 and is currently serving as the positions Dean and Professor in the Department of Civil Engineering. He has completed his postdoctoral research from Tokyo, Japan during 2003 to 2005. His major research interests include performance of concrete at elevated temperature, sustainable concrete constructions, etc. Professor Yargal has successfully completed several research-funded projects from Government of India, BRNS, BARC, CPRI, and MHRD and other organizations worth of project more than 1 crore Indian rupees. Professor Yargal has published more than 250 technical papers in reputed national and international journals and conferences, and also chaired technical session for the same in the more than 20 occasions during these conferences. He has delivered more than 50 invited lectures in India and abroad. He has won several prestigious awards like Professor Satish Dhawan State Award for Young Engineers for outstanding contributions in engineering science and an award instituted by the government of Karnataka. He has been honored with award for research publication from the Vision Group, Government of Karnataka. He has been felicitated by the Kudremukh Iron Ore Company Limited, Mangalore, for providing most appropriate innovative design solution. He is also felicitated by ACCE Mangalore with Eminent Engineer Award. Has won the Union Ministry for Water Resources Department of Irrigation Award for his best research publications. Professor Yargal has won Best Paper Award from Indian Society for Wind Engineering and several other technical bodies. Professor Yargal has visited several countries, namely Japan, Korea, China, United Kingdom, Canada, United States of America, Australia, Oman, UAE, and Bhutan for research interactions and to present the collaborate technical findings. He has been an active member of the prestigious India UK education and research initiatives for sustainable concrete construction. 6 students have completed doctoral degree and 2 students are currently pursuing their doctoral degree research under his supervision. He has examined more than 30 doctoral theses from various other universities. He is serving as an editorial board member of International Journal for Structural Fire Engineering UK and American Journal for Civil Engineering and Architecture. Professor Yargal has been technical reviewer of several manuscripts for many national and international journals. He has served as a member of international and national technical committees, board of studies, member both for UG and PG program, etc. Professor Yargal has served NITK in various capacities such as maintenance, warden, faculty in charge of water supply and systems, institute tabulation coordinators, associate dean, center in charge for central seat allocation board, member of Institute of Vision and Mission Drafting Committee, member of Institute of Master Plan Committee, secretary Civil Engineering Association, student, counselor, faculty advisor for institutions of engineers, students local chapter, secretary, Department of Research Progress Assessment Committee, DASA, that is Direct admission for student abroad, implementations and publicity committee member, senator, technical committee member, formed by Udupi district commissions, etc. He is responsible for significant department fund generation to the institute through several consultancies and industrial projects, actively involved in material testing, quality certification, third-party design vetting, surveying, pipeline design, concrete mix design, pipe testing design of water, wastewater treatment plant, etc. Currently, Professor Yergal shouldering responsibility of quality maintenance of 3D planetarium that is being built in Pilikula, Nisargadhama near Mangalore on request from the district administration. Professor Yergal is a life member of several professional bodies such as Indian Society for Technical Education, Institute of Engineers, Association of Consulting Civil Engineers, International Society for Hydraulic Research, Indian Society for Wind Engineering, Indian Society for Structural Rehabilitations, etc. The list just goes on. These are the some of the extracts of the achievements taken from his profile. Dr. Subhash Yergal sir, we are very much glad to have you in this occasion here. Thank you very much for accepting our invitations to grace this occasion. Now I request Yergal sir to continue the session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Kumar, for all the very generous introduction given by you. Am I audible? Is
Yes,
that
sir.
fine? Yeah.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. So, just for clarity, I will just put my video off. Maybe I'll take 1 hour from now, allotted time.
Sure,
I have,
sir.
I have 60 slides to complete my presentation.
Sure,
I
sir.
think I should be fine by 3 p.m. That's what I have targeted.
Yes, sir.
So,
Yes,
thank
full
you
screen.
all.
So
Yeah,
can you please do full
yeah, yeah. I'll just.
Yeah, sure.
Is that fine now? Is it okay now? Yeah.
No, no, sir. I think you have to click on this this one small icon for full screen slideshow.
Slideshow.
This is just beside 100%. If you can see this in the bottom right corner,
Bottom right corner.
just beside the 100% left side. Just click on the slideshow. So over here,
Yeah.
sir. Yeah, yeah. The
This
fourth icon, sir. The
fourth
icon.
is slideshow.
Yeah. Please. Yeah.
Now it is coming full.
Not yet, sir.
One minute. Screen share. Should I give this new
Sir,
share?
Yeah, sir. I think it's better if you share the whole screen rather than the PPT window.
Okay.
The whole window of your laptop. That is
Okay.
better. You can stop sharing and again share by full screen of your whole window laptop window. Yeah.
1 minute.
Yeah, sure.
Is it coming now? Hello?
Sir, it's good to go, sir.
It's fine now?
Yeah, yes, sir. It's fine, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, please
so,
go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Sorry for the glitch that we had. Okay.
No problem, sir. No problem, sir.
So, welcome everyone who have joined online. Very glad that in the afternoon you are available, and I understand all of you are very dignified teachers who are attending this faculty development program. In fact, I deem this as my privilege to share whatever little research we have done at NITK Surathkal from last 25 years. So my focus today will be on value-added materials for sustainable concrete construction. So just to pause and say a few words about concrete. All of us know that concrete has been a wonder material and shall also continue to serve the humanity as regards to shelter. So if you can pause and think, if concrete were not to have been invented, probably the shelter all over the world would have been a big question mark. So we know concrete is the most consumed construction material, only next to water. And undoubtedly, cement is the costliest ingredient of concrete. So if you want to cut down the cost of concrete, we have to bring down the consumption of cement in concrete to the extent possible. Now, cement clinkers production, we all know that it consumes large amounts of energy and is also associated with release of carbon dioxide emissions, which has a notable environmental impact. So I will be speaking more on the issue of greenhouse gases, its consequences. Due to rapid increase in construction activities, the construction and demolition constitutes a major portion of waste. I would not rate this as waste because we are adding value to this waste and calling it as value added construction materials. So we are generating large construction and demolition waste, and therefore one must analyze practices needed so as to handle this waste from the point of waste utilization, how best we can utilize this waste and give value to this waste. So we no more call it as waste, we'll say value added materials. How to manage this, and also disposal, which indirectly is making us to sustain or live for a larger duration of time. So there is no doubt that development has inflicted severe damage on the environment. So, and therefore, we are having a fear that it may endanger sustainability. So sustainability is in question, and therefore today's topic of my presentation has a lot of significance, how to make concrete construction a sustainable one, so that the future generations will also have adequate resources to enjoy themselves to the extent that the current generations are enjoying. That is the theme of my presentation. The exploitation of natural resources, in particular the non-renewable resources for construction, has led to millions of tons of construction and demolition waste. We have generated a lot of C&D waste. So this statistics is very important. Every year, 15 billion tons of concrete is produced throughout the world, which on an average means 2 tons of concrete per person per year. So you and me are producing around 2000 kg per year. So it is per capita production of C&D waste, which is not C&D waste, it is the concrete that is per capita generated, okay, which is not a small amount. Now, the depleting natural resources in the current scenario warrants or is the need of the hour to do research to examine what are the viable or the feasible alternative means, modes and methods for sustainable construction. So warrants is, it is a serious requirement today so as to address sustainable construction. Therefore, any effort in reduced use of cement is very appreciable. We normally, to do this, we are advocating or preaching to use more of supplementary cementitious materials. Please correct me, cementitious materials, mostly which could be siliceous or aluminous. So if you look at some concrete habitations all over world, so this is a photograph from the Mumbai, close to the Mumbai airport. We are having a concrete jungle. Here also people dwell and live as the richer class of people are living in multi-story buildings. So why I have taken this slide is just to show that sustainability is all of us should have the same living standards, but it is not so for whatever reasons. So there is a gap between the rich and the poor. So in the years to come, this gap has to be reduced. What is sustainability or sustainable development? Very simple. Father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi said, live and let live. Already I said, if your future generations have ample resources to enjoy the life that the current generations are having, that means we are living our lives and also allowing the future generations to live. So simple definition of sustainability is you also live and allow others also to live. I'm just coming to the core of my presentation. We'll just see what sustainability is and what is sustainable concrete construction. Now, sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present. Many times you would have come across this definition. It is not new. Without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. So do not consume the resources that are to be preserved for future generations. So you use and also see that part of the resources are also available for future generation. That is sustainable development. Sustainable concrete construction is a step towards green and eco-friendly concrete construction practices. How to make concrete green and eco-friendly is what I'll be discussing for another 30 to 40 minutes from now. So as to address or solve global environmental problems, that is, we should use less energy for production and also produce as less carbon dioxide than normal concrete. So already conventional concrete is producing enough carbon dioxide. So we try to, our effort should be in the direction to produce less of CO2 emissions. If you ask me what is not green in concrete, first culprit happens to be the cement. And cement is a binder for the constituents of concrete. So it itself is not green one. Why? Because for cement production, we require high embodied energy. So a lot of, it is a very energy intensive manufacturing process involved to produce cement. There, to produce cement, we are reducing the deposits, natural deposits of limestone and clay. Large amount of water is consumed in the manufacture of cement. Energy for crushing aggregates, because whatever limestone and clay deposits are to be crushed, so you consume mechanical and or electrical energy. Of course, manufactured cement has to be transported to the place of use. Therefore, you consume a lot of energy for transporting cement from one place to the other. We'll define what is embodied energy, because I wrote here high embodied energy, and what is carbon footprint. So these are the two buzzwords as regards to your global climate change, as regards to sustainable construction. Okay. So embodied energy is the sum of the energy requirements that is associated either directly or indirectly with the delivery of a good, okay, for supply of a good, or it could be a service. Okay. Carbon footprint is the total set of greenhouse gas emissions caused directly or indirectly by an individual. An individual may produce greenhouse gas emissions. It could be an organization, a small community, or it could be due to a conduct of an event, or it could be due to producing a product. Okay. In all these, you are releasing greenhouse gas emissions. Okay. And that we are calling it as carbon footprint. Why I'm talking about the issues of durability. If your concrete is not going to be durable, it means it calls for replacement sooner and sooner. So our effort should be to increase the durability of our construction material or make concrete as durable as possible. Now, what are issues with making it highly durable? Is the deterioration of concrete. So concrete's quality is deteriorating with time. This has a considerable detrimental impact on resources because if it gets deteriorated, again you have to make use of the natural resources for producing new concrete. So that calls for threat to the environment, and it is indirectly having threat to safety of producing resources. Okay. Therefore, what I am saying, deterioration in concrete should be reduced so as to increase the durability of concrete. Make your concrete to live as longer as possible without having any detrimental effect. We'll see what are issues related to durability. One is the surplus line. Please understand, due to high C3S, which is associated with high fineness of cement. So finer the cement, more is the production of C3S, one of the constituent of hydration of the cement. More lime is released in early days, which leads to leaching. Leaching means this lime would like to come out of the body of your concrete. So if this leaches out or tries to come out, it is making the body of concrete more porous, or you are increasing the porosity of the concrete element. Structural element could be a beam, column, or a slab. So you are making that more porous. And therefore, it becomes more prone or more chances that it can be attacked by external chemical attacks. Okay, if your foundation is buried, it could be all chemicals in the soil may get into the body of concrete and thereby reduce the durability of concrete. That is my concern due to surplus lime. We have problem with high heat of hydration. Supposed to be rendered or delivered to the system. When in need, we require heat of hydration whenever it is needed. But due to, again, fine grinding of cement, that is the advanced technology for grinding, fine grinding of cement, more heat is released in the early days of hydration. That results in micro cracking and thermal shrinkage cracks. Okay. This also is one thing which has to be duly taken care so as to increase the durability of concrete. What are other factors? There are several other factors such as corrosion of reinforcement, carbonation, sulfate attack, alkali silica reaction in concrete are the major issues associated with durability of concrete. Let's quickly see what is carbonation. You must all be familiar with carbonation. This is process by which carbon dioxide from the air or atmosphere penetrates into this concrete or structural element. That we call it as carbonation. Entry of CO2 from atmosphere into the body of concrete. Now, what does this do? It reacts with calcium hydroxide in the presence of water to form calcium carbonates, leading to minor shrinkage. Okay. This is the cause of entry of CO2. Again, in addition to that, in the presence of moisture, CO2 changes into dilute carbonic acid. This is of more concern again, which attacks concrete and it reduces the pH from 13. That is, we want the concrete to be alkaline up to 8.3. Due to this carbonation, the pH is getting reduced, that is from alkaline environment to acidic side, due to which again our durability is in question. So high pH creates alkaline passivating layers, which is desired for us around the steel reinforcement, so that steel is not getting corroded, extending protection from corrosion. So this is understandable. We want alkaline environment, but since from 13 pH, it is coming to 8.3 due to carbonation, the protective layer, that is passive weighting layers, gets destroyed and steel is exposed to corrosion. So chances of steel getting corroded due to carbonation is very high. The carbonation of concrete is one of the main reasons for this corrosion of steel reinforcement. Very particularly in high humid conditions like coastal Karnataka, where humidity is from 50 to 70%. And in places like Mangalore, Surathkal, humidity is to the extent of 95%. So if we are not very careful in checking the effect of carbonation, then my structural steel will get deteriorated very quickly, and the structure may be in a, it may be calling for distress, or the distress is manifested by means of cracks, and we may have to do early retrofitting of the structure or rehabilitate the structure. What are issues, concern, and ways? So having understood the problem with making concrete durable, and also how to reduce the consumption of cement, which is the only constituent in concrete which is not green, okay, in concrete. Now, global effort towards sustainability, I think a lot of effort has gone in, starting from year 2007. This is issued by the International Panel on Climate Change, that has stated in no uncertain terms that global warming is no longer an issue that has to be debated. So what happened here, IPCC said that we are having global warming. We are not going to debate on that. Since global warming is here, drastic actions are needed for long-term sustainability of our environment. So what we understood, or what the International Panel on Climate Change agreed, is there is global warming and we have to act swiftly, or very drastic actions are required if we are addressing the problem of long-term sustainability. If you do not want sustainable construction, you need not have to bother, okay, and your future generations are at stake and they may suffer. Now, as per this International Panel on Climate Change, it consisted of 600 scientists from 40 countries. The global warming is here and is due to the human activity and is irreversible. It is due to us and it cannot be repaired. But it can be reduced. It is irreversible. It recommends drastic steps to reduce CO2 emissions. Okay. IPCC recommends that we have to reduce CO2 emissions, which is the primary source of global warming. We'll talk about greenhouse gas emissions. It is not only carbon dioxide. Other greenhouse gases are also there. I'll address that. If no actions are taken to curb or reduce CO2 emissions, it is likely that the Earth's average temperature could increase by 4 degrees by the end of this century. So please remember, 4-degree rise calls for very serious attention. Now, temperature rise of 4 degrees C over this century and above, if it can be more than this, would have serious impacts on food production, water availability, and extreme weather events worldwide. We are seeing all these effects, whatever I mentioned in the previous slide. We are having problem on food production, water availability, and also we are experiencing extreme weather events worldwide. Now, worldwide CO2 emissions per capita in developing countries are much lower than by the developed countries such as Australia, Canada, and US. Okay, this is the data for your information. Okay, I'll share this PowerPoint presentation. Okay, you can go through these details. Now, unfortunately, the World Earth Summit in Denmark in the year 2019 was again a tragic failure. And there was no agreement among the delegates or the participating countries on establishing the binding limits on CO2 emissions. However, or nevertheless, there was a general consensus, or people in general agreed, that if we are to avoid major catastrophic events in the future, the temperature rise by the end of the century should be contained or should not exceed 2 degrees C. So this was the understanding in 2009. Now, world leader in global warming, undoubtedly it is North America, which is having a lot of greenhouse gas emissions and supposed to be the main country for global warming. Now, CO2 emissions by automobile in USA. Okay, again, cars are the largest single source of emissions into the atmosphere. And every liter of gasoline burned produces about 2.5 kg of CO2. The average car getting 10.6 kilometer per liter and traveling 20,000 kilometers per year emits about 4.7 tons or 4,700 kgs of carbon dioxide. Just to give you a feel, one car which runs for 20,000 per year with this mileage is giving you around 5,000 tons of CO2 into the atmosphere, just to give you a feel. Now, CO2 emissions and tropical deforestation. So this also is a worry for us. So this is the second biggest cause for global climate change, deforestation. Second only to burning of the fossil fuels. Now, because of deforestation, Indonesia and Brazil rank third and fourth in the world in greenhouse gas emissions. Of course, first and second are being China is highest in these greenhouse gas emissions, and America. Now, the importance of Tibet as regards to global warming. Tibet's altitude is around 4,000 meters above mean sea level, and it is called the barometer of the world's climate. So Tibet is very sensitive to this global warming, okay, and is sensitive to temperature changes. So temperature has increased 0.32 degree every 10 years. That means in 30 years, it is close to 1 degree C from the year 1961 to 2008. So this was up to 6 times the temperature increase in other parts of China. So elsewhere, it is almost 6 times. So what? We are going to pay a heavy price, likely outcome of climate change. Okay. So global warming is going to bring in climate change. Now, because of this, we are paying price for the following. Disappearance of glaciers. Okay, that means glaciers are melting very fast. Again, melting of the Antarctic glaciers, melting of the permafrost in the north. Due to disappearance of glaciers, we may have flooding that endangers the coastal low-lying areas. So if the water because of the sea level rise starts to come inland, so all the low-lying area people have to get inland. Okay, so you will have flooding. You are having damaged ecosystem that may endanger fisheries. So fisheries is our food production. So if you damage the ecosystem, your food production has a direct impact. You may have danger of very serious air pollution. We are seeing this now. We have not really understood, but because of the global warming, you are having climate change. Because of climate change, you have danger of serious air pollution. You may have increased danger of insect-borne diseases. Not clear about, but you are likely to get this. You will have increased threat of forest fires and very serious floods. Forests turning to grasslands, that is, fertile land becoming barren land. extremely serious shortages of water in both Africa and Asia. Already we are experiencing this. Okay. Again, I'm coming back to CO2 emissions in the manufacture of cement. 1 ton or 1000 kg of cement production releases 900 kg of CO2. We have a rough understanding that the concrete itself is going to absorb back while it is hardening about 400 kg of CO2 back into its body. So net, if you produce 1 ton or 1000 kg of cement, at least you are responsible that you are letting off 500 kg of CO2 into the atmosphere, just to remember. Now, greenhouse gas from manufacture of ordinary Portland cement. We are consuming a lot of cement. I said it is 2 kg concrete per person per year. It's not small. Now, manufacture of ordinary Portland cement is highly energy intensive and a significant contributor of greenhouse gas emissions. Enormous emission of CO2 into the atmosphere, along with minor amount of nitrogen oxides, we say NOx, NOxes, and methane. These are also deadly. Now, NOxes are oxides of nitrogen and methane, though they are small, are much more damaging than carbon dioxide. So all this time we are talking about only CO2. So greenhouse gas will also have these. So I have just given the relative damage indices for various greenhouse gases. If you consider CO2 damage as 1, methane is 20 times dangerous than carbon dioxide. Nitrous oxide is 200 times dangerous than carbon dioxide. And fluorine, though small, it is 15,000 times damaging than CO2. Of course, CO2 we are producing in large amounts. After the, to address sustainability, other constituent which is so vital for existence of all living organisms, including human beings, is water. So water will be the next world's crisis. Okay, we'll run short of water. Now, water shortage again has an implication on global warming. Himalayan glaciers are melting fast. Glaciers are retreating by about 10 to 15 meters each year, not a small melting. This is on one hand. Other hand, there are a lot of luxuries. We are wasting a lot of water to the tune of 9.5 billion liters of water is currently being used for irrigating world's golf courses. So golf is itself a luxury and you are consuming large amount or large volumes of water. Irrigation, we are paying a lot of price because our conveyance, our irrigating canals are not efficient enough. So efficiency of water transport from the dam side to irrigate fields is only to the tune of 50 to 60%. That means during transportation of this irrigation water, we are losing about 40 to 50% of the water. Water table is very fast declining because you are over exploiting the groundwater. There are no well set drafting laws in place. Some relevant data as regards to water. Per capita water availability in India is diminishing day by day. We had 6,008 in the year of independence per head per year. So we are somewhere here, 2025, it has come down to 1340. So likely that it will come to 1140 in the year. So this is availability. How are we consuming? For irrigation, it is going on increasing. For industry, it is increasing. Drinking is increasing because population is increasing. Therefore, we'll have water scarcity. There is no doubt we are already having. Per capita availability, if it happens to be less than 1000 meter cube per year, we are somewhere here now, okay, then we can say will become water scarce. So soon, most of the countries, at least countries in Asia and African continent, shall experience or shall become water scarce very soon. What do we do for sustainable development? Some important issues I have listed. Loss of storage due to silting. So at least in places like Bangalore, lot of desilting of natural ponds and lakes has been done. So you are increasing the storage by simply desilting. Declining groundwater table. So somehow you have to increase, do the recharge of defunct or non-functional bore wells, non-functional wells by water harvesting. Frequent droughts and floods are to be addressed. Degradation of water quality is also in question. So we have to address this issue. I just listed issues here. We have to find solutions. Saltwater intrusion is again a problem in the coastal areas, because inland, if you do over exploitation, if you start drawing more and more water for your irrigation and drinking water or for industrial needs, you are inviting the gush of the salt water which is close by on the shoreline. So once if it is polluted, then you have a severe problem of saltwater intrusion permanently. You may have waterlogging if drainage conditions are not properly maintained. So drainage has to be addressed. Soil nutrients are lost, again, if there is no proper drainage. What are remedial measures? Very important. I'll just touch upon. These are all not new to all of you who are listening to me now. Conjunctive use of both surface water and groundwater. So you strike a compromise, how much of the surface water you are going to use and how much of groundwater you are going to have. Most of you who have the bore wells, government or the state authorities or the local bodies is never telling you how many liters of water you have to pump out for irrigation or drinking. So there are no rules, and therefore groundwater is being exploited. Therefore, you must have effective draft operation policy. Government should bring in a policy depending on the need, how much of the groundwater I can pump out per day or weekly basis, whatever it is. So you have to go for a judicial use of both surface water and groundwater by having a draft operation policy. Try to improve the irrigation efficiency, because for transporting irrigation water, water is lost on the way of. Try to restore minor tanks and pools. Government has already initiated, it has to be encouraged. Interlinking of rivers if possible. Recycle and reuse the materials, which I'm now talking at least as regards to concrete. Demand management has to be done. If there is a need, then you have to supply. If there is no need, then you need not have to supply. Rainwater harvesting is the answer. Interbasin transfer, if it is viable and feasible. Go for better farming practices. Try to, most of our agriculture activities can be mechanized, efficiency can be increased. Use biofertilizers. Organic farming has come into picture, it has to be increased. Put in place quick tips for saving water. All as individuals, all of us can save water, which is very precious. If we don't act today, our children and grandchildren in the years to come will suffer because of our misconduct. So consume only as much as required for all of us. Now the efforts from the United Nations organization, they celebrated 2005 to 2015 as the water decade. What they have done is, water and sanitation is the pathway to a sustainable future. So this document, I have taken one slide. This is a 800-page document because the efforts for 10 years has gone into this text. It addresses safe drinking water. So this is the gist I'm talking about. Talks about sanitation and hygiene, cleanliness, water quality, water efficiency, integrated water resources management, water related ecosystems. So this is what the United Nations organization has done from year 2005 to 2015. They have celebrated this 10 years as water decade. I'm just coming to some of the works that we have done at NITK Surathkal. We'll just refresh. Most of you must have read our publications also. Many industrial byproducts are available. So if you can make use of them, because most of them are pozzolanic, they are having secondary cementitious characteristics, and they can be substitute for each of those which are having cementitious properties can be a substitute for part or full replacement of your ordinary Portland cement. And few of them which are inert can be a substitute for your fine aggregate, that is river sand, which also we are in dire search and dire need, that availability of your river sand is becoming scarce. Okay. Waste foundry sand, copper slag, ferrochrome slag, palm oil clinker, bottom ash, blast furnace slag, imperial smelting furnace slag, steel slag, fly ash. Then you have coconut shell. You have a lot of other byproducts available. Okay, so we must encourage and try to use them in one form or the other. What is the way ahead? How can we make concrete go greener? Okay, or we want to make concrete more eco-friendly. We have to reduce the cement in or content of OPC in production of concrete. The lesser the OPC consumed, you are making concrete more greener and greener. Try to reuse previously used structural elements. That means your construction and demolition waste has to be reprocessed and make reuse to the extent possible. Reduce consumption of water because it is very precious, and use water sparingly whenever required. Is a must use water. Try to recycle, use recycled coarse aggregates, fine aggregate from construction and demolition waste. Again, try to recycle the rebar leftovers, whatever is left out, try to please recycle. Make use of right admixtures. Okay, we have a lot of construction chemicals for increasing the performance of concrete. So go for right use of admixtures and right aggregates, because the right aggregates will give you good concrete, and good concrete will become more durable. Similarly, right type of reinforcement will increase the life of the structural element, and therefore your concrete element will last longer. Now integrate concrete in green building elements. Try to use aerated autoclaved concrete in the building, because it is going to be light and it is performance wise very superior. Maintain, very important, maintain sustainable construction practices. That means you must have reduced pollution, reduced water consumption, reduced energy consumption, and you have to maintain good indoor quality. That means again, you are addressing pollution so as to get indoor quality better. So we are talking about blended cements because we have produced Portland pozzolanic cement, Portland slag cement, and Bureau of Indian Standards has come out with composite cements where you have both fly ash and also granulated slag. Both are industrial byproducts. They are no more waste, but they are both value adding to the clinker. So you are only consuming less of the clinker deposit, whereas bringing in these two along with gypsum to delay the setting times. So this is a recommended composite cement, which at least to the tune of 85, if you look at the upper limit, we are getting rid of our normal OPC for concrete production, for cement production. Now, production of coal ash bricks also as building blocks has been in place, should be encouraged. Innovative concrete products. So this is from Master Plannery, a place near Puttur in Mangalore. Okay. So these all look like wooden fencing, but they are all concrete wood. You have concrete benches, garden terracing, and all these are available. So these are products which have to be encouraged. This is a ferrocement boat, which is made in NITK Surathkal in the year 1980. What is the beauty of ferro cement products? So ferro cement items are going to last longer, are going to last longer in the years to come. Okay, so we should encourage, because you just simply take chicken wire mesh and make use of rich cement mortar. So you get very light and very strong structural elements made out of ferrocement. So in the years to come, we are not exploited ferrocement. I think in the years to come, your precast ferrocement structural elements have to be popularized. Some research efforts I would like to address here. Yeah, we have gone for lateritic sand. Okay, so we have done characterization, because a lot of laterite blocks are being used in coastal Karnataka, where we have large deposits of lateritic sand. So during the manufacture of all these laterite blocks, you have a lot of waste lateritic soil, and we have already published. So we have established a procedure of characterizing this, which is a substitute to river sand. Okay. So if you look at the quality of lateritic sand, it is here. So what we have done, we have tried to produce the exact, this is your natural river sand, this is unprocessed lateritic sand and processed lateritic sand. Okay. Similarly, we have gone for production of coarse aggregates from the construction and demolition waste. This also we have published. And we have done a lot of work on using recycled plastic waste. Okay. Plastic waste that is melt processed. We have tried to use these pellets. I will see how they are manufactured. Try to use the pellets as filler material, okay, both in concrete and mortar. These melt process can also be used as fibers in concrete. We have done a lot of work on using broken manglure tile as coarse aggregate in concrete. We have done the studies for normal and pervious concretes. We have tried to use it as fine aggregate in concrete and mortar. Also, broken manglure tile waste is used as a secondary cementitious material, pozzolanic material. So its application, because it is rich burnt clay, and it should not go as waste, but we are trying to use it as coarse aggregate, fine aggregate, and also as pozzolanic material. Apart from this, we have done studies to use waste EPS products, this packaging material, also as coarse aggregate in concrete and also fine aggregate in concrete and mortar. What we do, this is a heating element. So the melt processed plastic bags are fed and they are drawn into strands, hot strands, and they are put in the water bath and they solidify. Okay, they are called melt processed plastic strands. And you can pelletize or you can cut them into small pieces, and they are for part replacement to river sand. Okay, they can be cut into required lengths of different aspect ratios, and they can be used as fibers in concrete. Yeah, manglure tile waste can be processed into coarse aggregate, fine aggregate, and also cementitious material. Okay, this is a fine, rich clay powder having cementitious properties. Packaging materials can be cut into pieces. We have done studies on this. Okay, both as replacement for coarse aggregate, not full, part replacement. And these products can be appropriately used, not for structural concrete, for concrete which is of inferior quality but used for different purposes. It could be like your maybe fence or compound walls, which are unimportant. They need not have to bear the very heavy structural load. Okay. How we can make cement industries to contribute for reduction of CO2 emissions. So this is my last concluding remarks. Try to use design mixes against the nominal mixes. Earlier we had nominal mixes. 1:1.5:3, 1:2:4, 1:3:6. Okay. But now you go for design mixes. Thereby you will use less fine aggregate. You will consume less cement. You will consume less coarse aggregate. Try to use less Portland cement is another step for sustainable concrete construction. Make use of more supplementary cementing materials. Use less unit water by making use of chemical admixtures and superplasticizers. Incorporate recycled aggregates in concrete, which is again a great step towards sustainability. Use stainless steel reinforcement only in critical parts of structures. Very important parts you go for use of stainless steel. That makes the concrete or the structural element more durable. Where possible, specify strength acceptance criteria on 56 or 91 days. That is 2 months or 3 months instead of 28 days. Because whenever you go for blending with fly ash and GGBS or any other metakaolin, any other cementing material, you have to allow it to gain strength slowly. Okay, because it is not going to be 28 days. So it is going to be either 56 days or 3 months. So strength gain is smaller. Use roller compacted concrete for pavers and gravity dams. Use less weight concrete wherever possible. Develop your self-compacting concrete using large volumes of fly ash. You consume more fly ash as much as possible. Design for durability instead of strength. This already is in place because we have revised IS 456, which addresses both strength and durability. Earlier, we are only talking about strength, but durability of concrete also is equally important. Go for pervious or porous concrete as much as possible. Advocate or use geopolymer concrete to the extent possible. You know, geopolymer concrete is also called as cementless concrete. Adopt alternatives to river sand such as processed locally available soil. I talked about lateritic soil, or industrial byproducts like copper slag, iron ore tailings, bottom ash. Lot of substitutes are there. Please try using them as substitute to river sand. Use less water as possible and try to recycle water. Thereby your water consumption will decrease. I think that's all I wanted to share. Before I close, I just share a prayer from Gitanjali by Rabindranath Tagore, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken into fragments. Okay, stay united, don't get broken into fragments by narrow domestic walls. So don't think low or don't think mean and get fragmented. Where the words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of vision has not lost its way, you should know where you are heading to. You should not get lost into dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by into ever widening thought and action into that heaven of freedom. My Father, let my country awake. So Rabindranath Tagore got Nobel Prize for English literature in the year 1920. So this is from the one of the poems from Gitanjali. Okay, so thank you very much. I think with that I am coming to the end. Okay, any clarifications? Please go ahead. Hello.
Hello, sir. Sir,
Hello,
thanks.
sir.
Yeah, am I audible, sir?
Hello, sir.
am
ಒಂದು
I
2
audible?
ನಿಮಿಷ ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಕಾಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇನೆ ಸರ್, ಒಂದು 2 ನಿಮಿಷ. ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಕಾಲ್ ಯು ಬ್ಯಾಕ್. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
Sir, am I audible, sir?
ಹಲೋ.
Sir, am I audible, sir?
ಯಾ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sir, thanks for the most vibrant slides. We can see the enormous research that you have carried out for additional materials that is being considered as a replacement of cement into the construction technology. And we really thankful for your extensive presentation on this. I think we have a couple of questions from the
Yeah, please go ahead.
participants. I just would like to put it in front of you. Sir, what is the effect of silicate modulus in durability and strength characterization of recycled based new generation concrete, sir?
What is the, can you please repeat?
Yeah, I'll repeat. Sir, what
Yeah.
is the effect of
Yeah.
silicate modulus in durability and strength characterization of recycled based new generation concrete?
No, recycled base, new generation, I think it is, the question looks to be more involved. So what I am saying is SAR, your silicate alkali reaction. So if you do not have control on that, so my focus has been on that. If you appropriately do not address that in concrete production, I am paying price on the durability was my focus. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah, that was
One more question, sir.
Yeah.
Why does geopolymer concrete present good fire resistance, sir? How it is possible?
The participants have asked about this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So basically, I told geopolymer concrete is not having cement. It is called cementless concrete. But
Okay,
what makes it to bind your fine aggregate and coarse aggregate and other constituents is, again, you make use of the chemical reagents such as sodium hydroxide, carbonates of sodium, all that will go into picture. And why it is better fire resistant is probably only because of the kind of matrix of the concrete. So normally if you want to make just out of the way, just to explain, okay, indirectly this question, because we have also done some studies on fire endurance of geopolymer concrete, and it has performed little better than the natural concrete when subjected to heat. Okay. Now, heat dissipation, or if you are allowing the body of concrete from the structural element to get lost in the event of fire accident, shall be more if you make the body little porous, or there should be some capillaries. That is why we tell people, if you want your concrete structural element to endure fire or face fire effectively, we talk about polypropylene fibers. Most of you would be aware of this. So polypropylene fibers we intentionally use in body of concrete where you have fear of fire accidents, because around 400 degrees C, these polypropylene fibers will melt and create a network of channels through which heat can get dissipated. So if your geopolymer concrete is going to perform little superior than the natural concrete, there must be a network of channels in the matrix. Maybe we may have to go for microstructure of both this natural concrete and the geopolymer concrete to answer this question. But I just, SEM analysis. So I have just come close to answering. I think I'm sure I have not completely answered this.
Yeah, that's, I think, well answered. Sir, I have one more question from the in-house audience.
Please.
Sir, cement industries have been effective contributor for the nation's economy, and
Yes.
reduction in production of cement, won't it be having a adverse effect on the economy and infrastructure with related to the construction industry? And how to resolve this, the inclusion of sustainable materials, or the additional materials that can be introduced to replace the concrete, resulting in carbon dioxide production? How it is how to resolve this problem?
Yeah, I think you have posed a question which is really all inclusive. Okay. Okay, and very difficult questions to be addressed, and you and me can only put forth our suggestions, because we must have some codal provisions and what is being researched has come into action, and there must be policy decisions which are to be made. There is absolutely no doubt. The takeaway from my talk today is you have to reduce OPC consumption. Okay, that means naturally the cement manufacturing industries will have a direct impact on the economy of the country, and they themselves might not encourage. I think maybe 15 days back, JK Cements invited me to make a presentation. We said what we wanted to say. And finally, the policies are to be made from local authorities, government bodies.
True, sir.
Okay. So there is no doubt if cement industries are flourishing, there is going to be no deposits of your limestone and clay in the years to come. So what I am saying by sustainable development is your cement industries also should survive. That means they must have some resources for cement production, however less. So I think it is very difficult unless it has to be taken as a nation, at least if you want to do. But this recycling and reuse of your construction demolition waste, most of the countries, at least Europe and America, even Australia, they are actually advocating. Whatever I am saying, C and D waste,
Uh, Sir, one more question.
yeah,
One
please.
last question.
Yeah.
Sir, the use of sustainable concrete necessitates alteration of site practices. Will this
Yes.
not result in time and cost overruns? This is a question from Inno's audience.
Okay. Time and
Time and cost overruns.
no. What I'm saying is you have understood where the problem is, and we have to be ready for change. Okay. And even whether it is, we just now said, and many times we ask students, whoever does work on geopolymer concrete, though we call it as cementless concrete, what is the cost? Whatever, if you are not using OPC, if the cost is substantially low for paying for your chemical reagents, okay, and your sodium silicates and hydroxides. So cost analysis is equally important. But if you have to do this recycling and reuse, the quality, see, always we say M25, M30 grade of concrete, correct? What I'm saying is with inferior or with less strength properties, if you can produce M10 and M15 concrete, but as a user, you must know where I'm using M10 and M15. So if I'm using this clay aggregates, which we have done, we don't ask to produce the M40 grade of concrete. They have, if you are getting the M15 strength, you use it for your bed concrete. This is what
That is
anyway, please excuse me because questions have not been answered because this is a hot topic of our discussion. Okay,
true,
to the
true.
satisfaction, whoever has posted. Fine. Yeah, please.
No problem, sir. Sir, am I audible, sir?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am. Yes.
Yeah, there's a small technical glitch during the initial a couple of minutes when we started, but you patiently waited and presented a very good presentation of the topic, very much relevant to this current construction technology being affected by climate change. And of course, as you have suggested, sir, we have to embrace as a user the different kind of construction materials available for us to replace. Maybe that will again flourish as an separate individual industries, and even that will add on reducing the concrete presence on this earth, reducing the climate change. And hope your wish and your research will also continue, and will definitely yield more results. And we and on the behalf of civil department, Jyoti Institute of Technology Bangalore, we thank you wholeheartedly for your continued support with us. And this is your second presentation with Jyoti Institute of Technology, and we are so thankful to you. And thanks for your presence and the presentation, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, thank you so much once again. It's my privilege to get associated with your institute through Professor Suresh, who has been my close friend. And I would like to thank all the participants. You have been playing a very important role as the technical teachers. I only wish that may God bless all of us to do our job good and try to advocate good practices for the coming future generations. So I wish this FDP all the best, because this happens to be my opening lecture. I wish that participants will not have or shall not be impatient. So they have a lot of things to take away from this FDP program. Once again, I wish the FDP program all the success, and thank Jyoti Institute for giving me an opportunity to share my experiences with the concrete construction. Thank you, one and all. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Thanks.
Thank you.
Nice
So,
day, sir.
okay, we'll leave the meeting. Okay, good
Yes,
luck.
yes,
Huh?
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, participants. So, for all the participants in this meeting, we want to mention that we will be providing the questions, quizzes by the end of the day through your email and WhatsApp group. So you are supposed to answer that and reply the responses in that Google form, and that will be considered as a cumulative factor for the certification purpose, or for the through the final assessment of your marks scored by all these daily tests. So the certification will be based on that, your attendance as well as your responses. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thanks for the day. Thanks for your attendance. So we will be meeting tomorrow exactly at 9:30 a.m. For the first lecture uh, from the speaker Sri K.N. Keshav Prasad on the past, present, and future of creation to construction. He is an industrial person on. He is a consultant architect. So let's meet tomorrow at exactly at 9:30 a.m. at the same meeting link. Please use the same meeting link for joining the next session. Thank you, and all.
Mukesh Kumar Gupta. I am not.